Welcome back to the Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast for stage 16 of La Vuelta. I thought this would be a breakaway stage. Benji thought there could be some action, and he was right today. This was a really interesting stage with a lot to talk about. A Vuelta special, 120 Ks, less than 3 hours of racing, nearly 2.5 hours of racing, and a Unipuerto hockey stick. Although it is rolling along the Cantabrian coast, out of Santander before. That's where they start in Santander, finishing in Bejes. I think this is the most beautiful stage of the race, actually, in La Vuelta. Kirby was talking about he wants to go to Cantabria. I kind of now want to as well. I thought it was really attractive. Anyway,
go
rolling,
together.
Yeah, maybe next year on the way to Gran Camino in February. No, actually, in winter, it's fucking cold. Not going there. Finish, 5Ks, 8.6%. Is this a hilltop finish? Or a mountaintop finish? Is this for climbers or is this for punchers, Benji?
This is a medium mountain finish. I think there's an in-betweener there that you can classify as a medium mountain. This is that. This was for the climbers for me, for the GC riders. This is too difficult for the Romain Grégoires of the world, for the pure punchers of the world, for the old school 2011 Philippe Gilbert. This is too long, for example. That's how I see this climb. This is for the GC riders and maybe for the ones where it's difficult. Depends on how hard the race is beforehand, but I reckon before we go to what actually happened to the final, we got to talk about the immense breakaway battle that we had from the start of the stage until 60% into this stage, to be honest, because while there was immediately a breakaway, after like 10 kilometers of fighting, there was a breakaway. Vervaeke, Grégoire, the puncher I just said can't win on this race, was in the breakaway. Caden Groves as well, seemingly to protect his green jersey even more against. Honestly, the only person that can even remotely threaten him is kind of Remco at the moment. Kron, Piccolo, Lapera, Sobrero, Bardet, Max Poole, and Battistella. So 2 strong DSM riders there, but there's one team that's not happy with this breakaway. And it's Ineos who do literally everything in their power to catch this breakaway. Was it too much they were trying?
Like, I'm obviously very critical of teams all the time, and you know, probably that's what we've done a lot on this pod, but I don't like to criticize a team for trying. Obviously, they should make it in the first place. Obviously, that's ideal. But when you don't make it, and it was the plan, and you have the team there, do you say, oh, we'll just give up and go for tomorrow? I mean, they still tried. And if I was them, I would have expected, Benji, other teams to help them. No, have Bahrain won a stage in this race?
Don't think so.
So, Bahrain, if I had Santi, Caruso, and Pauls on my team, why weren't Bahrain? I would have expected Bahrain to help on this finish. I would expect Trek to help. Because they didn't have anyone on the breakaway. I mean, and you look at AG2R, they can get someone in better than who was a Prudhomme or Lapira. So I would have thought other teams would have lent them a hand. And those 2 I mentioned are very strong. They didn't. And so I guess, you know, my question though to your point, Benji, is who are they going to win this stage with if they do get in the breakaway?
Yeah,
Ineos.
That I do not get in the first place. Like, I reckon from their team, the pure climbers are the ones I'm aiming at for this finish. Like, I'm looking at a Thomas for a finish like this, but he was one of the first ones to set the pace after the breakaway. So I don't believe in Castroviejo breakaways. I don't believe he's strong enough to win a breakaway stage unless it's a really Mickey Mouse breakaway that he's up against. But outside of that, I'm looking at their team and I'm like, maybe they try to get Bernal in there. Maybe that's the rider they want to win a stage with, but he hasn't shown that form anyway for me to be able to be competitive. Bardet beats Bernal at the finish line if that happens. And, well, they basically blow up their entire team in the chase. That's how I see this, because the gap gets close and then there's a few people like a Bahrain rider here or there that tries to bridge. And while they do get close, it's eventually just once again one final push of riders getting in the breakaway that closes that initial breakaway down. And now we're talking about, we've ridden 40 kilometers at this point, and it's only a 120 kilometer stage. So it's starting to become less and less time to be controlled by any team that wants to control a stage like this for their own gain. And then the next step is a smaller breakaway forms, and that's because we see lots of riders trying, but we see the same scenario happening all the time. A group of 6 tries to go up the road, and the team that bridges, the group that bridges, so a group of 8 tries to bridge to the group of 6, then we suddenly see a Tratnik showing up, or a Geesink showing up in that group too, kind of closing that second group. To me, it felt like Jumbo was actively trying to get a smaller breakaway up the road in the hopes to control the stage for themselves.
It seemed that way, and maybe that wasn't originally the plan. yesterday. Obviously, this morning, have we spoken about? There was the news of Nathan van Hooijdonk was involved in an incident, a car accident, and was reported to be in a very serious accident. Was reported to be in a critical condition. So, and the riders start the stage. Basically, there's the report from Sporter. There's the report from the Belgian police in the hospital, but the riders really start this stage not knowing what's going on with that. Obviously, they know it's very serious. That's all they really know at that point. And so I don't know how that played into it, but certainly, as you said, Benji, it looked like Jumbo started to try and... Because I'm not sure they're bringing that original break back. That was a good original breakaway with... Groves was trucking today. It was 10 strong guys in that break. I'm not sure they bring that break back. Maybe Ineos changed their mind and thinking, fuck, we got to work for an hour now. We just work for an hour if we get a small break and we can go for a stage.
Yep, that is true. And we see that once that small breakaway from the 5-man breakaway, Cataneo, getting Groves again, like you said, Prodom, Max Poole, and Joel Nicolau. So 5 riders, quite solid engines, but this is not the breakaway that will last against a Van Baarle, Geesink, and Tratnik pacing them down the entire day, because they're trying to keep this at a minute. They're trying to keep this close so that when they get to the final climb, there's a chance they're already caught early on the climb or just before the climb. And we see that exact scenario. There's one thing that even weakens the breakaway a bit further. That's because a bit later we see the intermediate sprint with about 25 kilometers left in the stage, and Groves sprints for it and drops back to the peloton. So he has his points, he's happy, so that weakens the breakaway for the next 10 kilometers, but I was already of the opinion that the break wasn't going to win them, because the gap was falling down from a minute 40 max to a minute to 37 seconds, and it started to look like it might be caught just at the bottom or just after the start of the actual climb. And it was earlier, it was at 10 kilometers to go that the breakaway got caught. And I feel like we've caught up with everything so far, but
they gave up, I think. You saw the quick step car talking to Cataneo just being like, pull it, like, you're not going to, you need 2 minutes at least on this climb. And so they gave up even before they were caught. I think from 20Ks, they gave up the ghost. Or whenever Groves left, mentally, they were done.
Yeah, exactly. And the basic gist of what we've told so far is the fact that the smaller the amount of kilometers is that a GC team needs to control, the more likely that they're going to do it. The breakaway formation phase was so long, like roughly 70 kilometers, where Jumbo didn't have to control it, where the breakaway formation phase controlled the race, that they only had to control for 40 kilometers until the final climb. And that's relatively easy to do, even though the peloton was kind of on one line. So that's kind of the summary of the stage so far. And we're all going to see what Jumbo are cooking on the final climb, because we're heading to the final climb. And when this happens, I'm always looking at Joao Almeida, because I want to know if he's
10th on GC.
Where is he?
He's actually really good on these climbs.
His positioning is what I look at.
Well, I mean, I don't know how you see that from the helicopter shot. It's certainly not going to see it from the front-on motorbike shot. His positioning. But if you remember on Tentudia last year, he's actually very good at 10-12 minutes. And this is 5Ks. So that's 5 kilometers, 30 Ks an hour is 10 minutes. So they're not going to do 30 Ks an hour, 9%, 25 Ks an hour, 12-minute climb, let's say, give or take. He's actually very good in this range. In the Vuelta third week last year, he cooked on Tentudia last year, where Uran beat Jesus Herrada, who I picked, or maybe it was Quentin Pacher. He was very good on that. So I thought, was he going to try something? Early attackers like him and Vlasov on stage 9.
Yeah.
Will they try that? I was also doing the maths, Benji, and it wasn't adding up. It was not adding up to me. Kelderman's been used on the flat. Van Baarle's been used on the flat. Hessink's been used. Wilco's dropped. Tratnik's doing the run-in. The full omloop. He was doing an omloop style lead out basically into, because the climb starts on a right-hander at 270 degrees. Got to be first. He pulls off, and I'm thinking, Attila Valter's going to pull Roglic and do a lead out for 5Ks against the peloton. I don't think so. And so you already could probably tell, if Jumbo want to defend the 3 leaders and not put 2 of the 3 into a lead-out position, Valter's going to get you, at best, a K into this climb. Something's going to have to give. and there's going to be attacks. And so I already thought this was actually going to be quite an open climb, even though it looks like a Roglic sprint climb.
Exactly, and to give a bit more of a sketch to what the group looked like at that moment, we've got a 5K climb roughly. It's a rather difficult climb. Like, it's 9 to 10% for the first kilometer and a half. Then there's a portion of like 6-7% for a bit, but then it goes back up to 13 in the last, like, from 3 to 4 kilometers, and it like settles out a bit in the last kilometer. That's roughly my sketch of the climb. But looking at the group going into that, like, UAE was badly positioned, and that's always the case. That's why I look at Almeida's position, because it's always funny that he starts really far back and then tries to move up on the climb and so forth. But also Ayuso was pretty far back, and they were kind of midway the group of like 40 riders, maybe just past midway the group. And Jumbo was at the front with the following train: Walter, Jonas Vingegaard, Kuss, Roglic. Then we saw Mas, Plazo, and Kian Uiterbroeks very close to them. Then Poels and Landa were there for a bit. Then like 5 to 10 positions until we saw the UAE riders. And those UAE riders were the following: Soler was there, even though I sometimes couldn't find him very well. Fisher Black was there. Absolute diamonds in the legs today. We'll see what he does with it. Then Ayuso and Almeida. So also 4 riders. And we get that scenario you mentioned. The second I saw Walter ahead of Jonas, I was like, Jonas is about to attack the second that Walter is done with his pace. Like, it's kind of telegraphed.
They've done it in the province, which I mislabeled this as, to the west of here, back in February. Was that Johannes Stanemitten? Was it which? Walter's been doing lead-outs for Jonas all year.
That was Walter, yeah.
Was it? Okay, in Gran Camino. And they did it early on these sort of climbs. And this was the big difference between Vingegaard 23 and Vingegaard 22. Vingegaard 22, long climbs, hot conditions, we all know, fantastic, whatever. 23, he started the year in these Spanish races. And of course, he's competing against me, Benji, and Ander Okamika. But the watts were crazy on these 10 to 12 minute climbs in the Spanish region, these steep ones. And so he has confidence from that in this part of the world, in cool conditions. He can go early. And I think if you don't do that, Benji, what's your alternative? If you're Jumbo, if he doesn't attack, you wait for a Vlasov to move and Jonas goes with him, and it's a little bit more chaotic.
Or you start using your leaders to pace for the red jersey of Kuss, but I'm not on that page yet. As in, I want more time on Ayuso if I'm Jumbo-Visma. And yes, Kuss fans might not like that. I love GC Kuss. I want GC Kuss to absolutely destroy everybody in this race and win the red jersey at the end. But in all honesty, as Jumbo-Visma, you want to win the race, period. It's not really, it's a luxury to be able to choose who wins, but I wouldn't be doing it 6 days from the end. Maybe in the last 3, I'll start thinking about, can we get Kuss to win?
Especially with one big stage coming where multiple leaders' team strength doesn't help you at all. It does, but the Angliru, for example, tomorrow. So I think you can do that on Linares. There's a valley and it's not so long a climb, but I agree. If Vingegaard, and listen, before this climb, I thought if Vingegaard has diamonds in the legs, UAE have 4 riders. If he has diamonds, he wins by 15 seconds. That's a big gap. On a 12-minute climb, going from, 3Ks, 4Ks to go, it's not that steep. There's a flat bit in the middle. They have 4 riders, and other teams could chase, like Bahrain. No way I ever thought he could win by 1 minute. No way. It's not possible on a climb this short. And so I thought it was mainly a bit of first of all, trying to get an emotional victory. Second of all, take 10 bonies, 15, half a minute, little buffer on Ayuso, because I wouldn't be comfortable going into Angliru with 1 minute. Say Kuss has a problem or really cracks or crashes, Roglic and then Jonas are a minute on Ayuso, that can start to look not good pretty quickly.
Exactly, and then we look at what's happening. We see that Walter lead out. We see Jonas making that attack with roughly 4 kilometers to go, 3.9 kilometers to go, and he's got instant separation, but there's still people trying to chase him down. First of all, I feel like Poels came to the front for a bit, tried to work a tiny bit. Mas was also a bit at the front for a second there, but then the legendary man, diamonds in the legs, Finn Fisher Black comes to the front and attacks?
I couldn't really tell, to be honest. I knew that Vingegaard's attack was super strong. That was clear because the gap was very, very big very quickly, and people were chasing initially. But yeah, Finn Fisher-Black gets a gap, and I'm thinking, okay, Ayuso and Almeida are not on a good day. They've lost his wheel because they can't go with the pace. He's going to wait. I thought he was going to wait.
Yeah, because what else is going to happen? Almeida, Soler, and Ayuso don't look like they want to work for each other at any point in this race, so they're not going to start pacing for each other. So every second that Fisher-Black is in between Vingegaard and the group of Ayuso is time that Vingegaard is gaining time on the group of Ayuso. And we saw that because the time was going from 10 seconds to 20 seconds to 40 seconds with Fisher-Black like on 12 seconds of Vingegaard and sometimes 6 seconds. But then at a certain point when the road went back up halfway to climb, that's where it really hit. And that's where Fisher-Black could not win the stage.
Yeah, but he's never beating him. Even when he responded and he was on 3 seconds, I was like, it's not happening. Like,
but Vingegaard, I wanted it.
Yeah, of course it would be fantastic. And I want Fisher-Black to do well and Tippity and solidarity and all that. But when Vingegaard, you saw with Mas, and Mas made the right decision on Tourmalet. Mas was being held at like 2 seconds when Vingegaard attacked the last time. And he was like, ooh, I'm going to end my race here if I keep going. He's not just attacking. This is his rhythm. And so there's no way Fisher-Black's winning the stage. And let's just go into the minds of the UAE directors, Benji.
Yeah.
Say you were actually hyper-realistic and you took the view that no one can beat Vingegaard in this race. Ayuso will never leapfrog Vingegaard in this race. He is simply too good.
Yeah.
Should you chase Vingegaard? Or, and my answer is not necessarily, but you want to get Ayuso on the podium, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think you have to put Finn, still has to go back to pace Ayuso to drop Kuss or Roglic.
Exactly, because not only does it hinder them from catching Vingegaard, it also hinders them from being able to set up a launch pad for Ayuso if he has the energy to do so. And we get this kind of silent moment, like we said, when the gap was growing, and I'm like expecting Maz and so forth and Poels to start pacing for Landa, which happened for a bit, and so forth in that group, but then someone else attacked, and that's behind Vingegaard, who's still a minute 05 roughly ahead on the road, maybe a minute. Then Fisher-Black is dropping from 10 seconds behind Vingegaard to like 30 at this point, 25, and we see a move in the group behind the favorites group. Well, not really the favorite group anymore, but what was the favorites group with Roglic's group, basically, where Roglic attacks. And
Almeida had attacked before, right?
Did he? I didn't see.
Yeah, Almeida surged and accelerated. But yeah,
he did. Yeah, you're right.
UAE, absolute disaster class today. I don't know what people are going to be like, oh, the Jumbo team bus, there'll be just people unhappy. UAE today was much worse. Yeah. Like Almeida disaster. Sitting in 10th on GC, then surging. Soler's just hanging in there. I mean, maybe he can't go to the front. Finn in the Chaspatat. Really bad. But yeah, then Roglic went Benji.
That Roglic move, him attacking that group, is also not a good strategy.
Yeah,
I agree. Vingegaard's ahead. He's gaining time on your group. Yes, it's not good for Roglic's GC, but you're in the same bloody team as Vingegaard. Vingegaard's attack initially was good. Yes, he attacked the red jersey, which a lot of people are actually complaining about online, but that's tactically a good decision by Jumbo to make sure that one of their riders can benefit from attacking away, maybe some Group 2 syndrome behind, and gain time as a consequence, making sure that other teams behind have to chase down Vingegaard, which didn't happen because Fisher-Black reacted in that way. But Roglic's attack instead does not only hinder the gap that Vingegaard already has, it closes it a tiny bit, but in addition, he needs separation for this attack to be useful, and during this Vuelta, I don't recall Roglic attacking at any point unless at the finish line and actively dropping everybody in the group.
Oh, we saw this on Tourmalet. When Kuss attacked the last time, Roglic tried to attack. And this is why people keep saying, Roglic, he's biding his time. He looks the strongest in the race. I'm like, what race are you watching? He tried to attack on Tourmalet and got no separation and had to do his 250-meter sprint. And this was the same, Benji. It was not the last 250. I don't know when it was. Last K, maybe? He attacked, and it was a little bit early for him.
Yep.
And very quickly you can see he's not getting away from Master Ayuso. And they're coming back to him, and they're actually now dropping Kuss off their wheel. Which at that point, by the way, it's not too bad. Like, Roglic doesn't know that they're dropping Kuss. They're not in his wheel immediately. But it wasn't like Jonas who just bang, 10 seconds gap.
You need the initial separation, and if the initial separation isn't there, then your attack is hindering both Vingegaard's gap at the front and Kuss in your own group. And knowing the history of Roglic's attacks in this race so far, I would have said 90% of the time that the separation would not have happened. If his attack would have been the first one, that's different. Let's say tomorrow, Jumbo do the exact same strategy and Roglic is the one to attack the first. You might see a knee-jerk reaction by UAE, that is Fisher Black reacting in the same way as today. Just probably won't happen again, but if that scenario happens tomorrow again, then Roglic might actually be taking quite a bit of free time because of Group 2 syndrome.
Impossible.
But I don't believe in the second attack from Roglic, dropping the GC riders that are already dropped by one Jumbo rider. That's just not a good tactical decision.
I mean, you could, to play devil's advocate, you could say, why does Jonas get the opportunity to leapfrog him in on GC and take more time on Ayuso and Mas? Why shouldn't Roglic also be afforded that opportunity?
Because I trust Vingegaard to drop people instantly easier than Roglic.
And he did, but I think you have to let Roglic try to attack. I think you have to let him try it. Otherwise, you can't just say you have to sit there. But the minute he sees... he could have looked around and they were surplusing with Sepp in the wheel. That could have happened.
Yeah.
But when he sees they're strung out and they're holding him on 5 meters, then you have to kind of pull the pin a little bit earlier. He did pull the pin eventually, but yeah, it's clear on Angliru that Roglic is not stronger than Mas Ayuso to me. Like, he sat in the wheel the whole Tourmalet and tried to attack them, couldn't get separation, and had just sprinted at the end. And today, they went past him on his climb.
Yeah, because Angliru is on paper more Vingegaard's climb than Roglic's climb, eh?
And Kuss.
Yeah, true. Kuss is also on paper better on Angliru than today. Now, we get that scenario. The Roglic attack has failed. The gap from Vingegaard to the Roglic group is a tiny bit less as a consequence. Kuss is kind of on the brink of dropping, but he catches back on, and they're kind of reaching towards the moment where they will sprint in that group, while a minute up the road is Vingegaard winning the stage. Nothing. I can't say much more than that. It happened.
Yeah, Vingegaard wins the stage, very muted, maybe not even any celebration. Actually, across the line, another emotional victory. And then we see in the sprint to the line, or Finn keeps coming, he comes second, which, like, big watts from him. We did there was some Wout Poels Michael Storer erasure. Poels is very, very strong, but yeah, Bahrain FDJ, when there was that lull, there was even an attack from Mollema. I was like, the meme, what the hell a polar bear doing in Arlington, Texas? That was put in Discord. I was like, Bauke Mollema's attacking the GC group, which is also just, it's so Mollema. It's like,
yeah,
what are you doing, bro?
like, why is he spending this energy? Because why don't you just go in and break?
The gap was a minute to Vingegaard, by the way. I was like, if he can catch Vingegaard and drop him, maybe that Trek extension was pretty good.
Maybe he's trying to get the next 3 years.
Anyway.
But anyway, like,
Vingegaard
strong
wins.
Victory by Vingegaard. The gap with which he wins this stage is 43 seconds on Finn Fisher Black. Wout Poels is third. I'm shocked by these third and fourth. I didn't realize Wout Poels was third and Storer was fourth.
Yeah, because remember, him and Caruso were trying to get across to Vingegaard, and then Caruso was initially pacing, Poels went across, and Bahrain stopped. The gap would have been even bigger if Bahrain didn't pace initially.
Exactly. Ayuso ends up beating Mas, Vlasov, and Roglic, but in the same time, so it doesn't matter. Irrelevant, but...
Could have. If Finn had gone back to pace, I used to take 6 bonies on Roglic.
That is true, but next to that, in addition, you got to keep in mind that whatever acceleration they did there did drop Kuss by 4 seconds and Landa. So Kuss is losing 4 seconds, and I would go as far as saying that without Roglic's attack, Vingegaard would have gained more time, and Kuss wouldn't have lost the 4 seconds, in my opinion.
I think, probably Kuss doesn't lose the 4. I don't know. You'd expect Ayuso and Mas to burst at the end anyway. Vlasov looked quite good. Almeida, despite not pacing, lost 8 seconds to them. It was never a good climb for Kjan. He lost 12 seconds to the Ayuso, Mas, Roglic, Vlasov group. He is still in ninth on GC. So, yeah, Vingegaard takes 1 minute and 1 minute and 11 seconds with the bonies advantage on Ayuso.
Mm-hmm.
That's very comfortable cushioning. GC now. Sepp Kuss, his lead has been narrowed. He's now only 29 seconds ahead of his teammate Vingegaard. Roglic moves into third with Vingegaard leapfrogging him on 1:33.
Mm-hmm.
Ayuso is now on 2:33, which is his only 4 seconds. He's actually moved up closer to Sepp, but he has lost a minute to Vingegaard, as I said. So he's now 2 minutes and 4 seconds behind Vingegaard. And if there was any doubt before, Jumbo winning this Vuelta is a lot more assured today, because now for Ayuso to win, not only does Kuss have to have a terrible day, Vingegaard, even on an average day, like his when he had diarrhea in week 1 day, it's hard actually to lose 2 minutes on the Angleroo. It's only a 40-minute climb and only 25 minutes steep, which suits a Vingegaard too. So, yeah, there's actually no other change in the top 10, Benji, apart from the Jumbo guys leapfrogging each other.
I'm trying to figure out who dropped out of 11th position in GC, though. Because
That's a good question.
Buitrago, Rodriguez, Lopez all moved up, and I don't see the person that has dropped down 75 spots at the moment.
David de la Cruz didn't start because he was sick with gastro.
Oh, so some might not have been finished. I don't know. Remco
No.
dropped down on purpose.
De la Cruz was 11th.
Oh, yeah. You're right. De la Cruz. You're right. I erased him in the final, in the previous stage when it comes to his attacks, but he deserves to be mentioned when he's exiting this race because he's actually ridden quite a solid Vuelta in the
also
Subeldia style.
This 11th, actually attack. Come on, give him the attack the other day.
Yeah.
His 11th in this Vuelta is a lot more impressive than some 8th or 9th positions in other Vueltas and Giros. Like, who's the fella? Not him. Who's the fella that went to Israel? That Nicholas Egg or someone who came
Carl
8th
Friedrich
in the
Hagen,
Vuelta?
I don't know.
Yeah, Carl Friedrich Hagen ain't coming 8th in this Vuelta. Tell you that for free. It's a serious top 10. This top 10 is really, really good. Like Kjan is in 9th, man, and he's so good.
Quickly, to summarize.
Yes.
UAE's tactics on this climb were terrible as a consequence, in my opinion, of their 3 leaders not willing to work together, and what Fisher Black did I can't explain at all. Like, that
maybe he was allowed to go
explain.
for the stage. Maybe they're so obsessed with UCI points. Maybe they just want the UCI points to the stage.
Team classification. Maybe it's that.
I don't believe I'm obviously being biased.
Yeah.
Because he's young and he's Kiwi. So maybe it isn't the case. But no way he's that sure of himself in the UAE hierarchy that he could just do what he wants in a Grand Tour.
This sounds like a team issue.
Yeah. I don't like no way a young guy in his 20s would just tell Ayuso and Almeida to go fuck themselves. I feel like the car, or I don't know.
And when it comes to Jumbo, everybody can be critical as they want of like the leadership attacking each other, like Kuss making the first move, Roglic making that second move. I personally think the Kuss move was a good tactical move, the Roglic one wasn't a good tactical move. But regardless of that, in GC they moved forward like, yeah, Kuss lost 4 seconds. Sorry, but that's not the end of the world in the span of a 2 minute and 37 gap going down to 2:33 in exchange for Vingegaard getting 1 minute and is it 11 seconds or something closer to, well, further away, basically, from Ayuso. I'd take that any day, that trade.
Yeah, for sure.
As a team. And the question now is, how will they follow this up? Because Kuss and Vingegaard are now really close to the point that if Jonas does this again, he might be in red.
Yeah. It's tough, isn't it? Because
how about...
everyone wants Kuss to win, except maybe Vingegaard's mother and family.
Well... Maybe the accountant of Jumbo doesn't want Kuss to win because he's going to get a lot more expensive if he wins the Vuelta.
I don't believe in running teams like that.
That's true. I agree.
But also there's the argument, why shouldn't the strongest win?
Yeah, but it's difficult. I somewhat agree, but I also kind of feel like Jonas seems like a selfless person to the point that I expect him to offer at least tell the team that he's down to ride for Kuss.
And
it might fall the other way, but
yeah,
he seems like someone who would.
And to be clear, he was supposed to take at maximum 20 seconds today plus 10 bonies.
He accidentally got closer.
Yeah, and like you can't tell him to slow down. And he wasn't supposed to take a minute 11 on a 4.9 kilometer climb. That's ridiculous.
It's all the fault of you, Ian Fisher Black. Like,
yeah, he's also stomping for sure, but yeah, that's the thing. If Finn paces, I think the gap is 25, 20.
Yep.
But that didn't happen. Anyway, what do we learn though? Should we write Kuss off? I'm not writing Kuss off just because he lost 4 seconds in a sprint.
I'm not writing Kuss off either, because tomorrow's stage, let's talk about tomorrow's stage and then talk about this question.
Yeah.
Because Ribadesella Ribesea, whatever you pronounce this starting spot, to Alto de Langliru, an epic climb, one of the historical climbs in La Vuelta, 124.4 kilometers. It's not really a Unipuerto stage, although I feel like it's gonna be ridden as one, in the sense of like, this is gonna be a stage for me where there might be a break, but I believe the peloton is gonna win. Just like today. But more importantly, I believe tomorrow Jumbo will control the stage and try and win the stage. And yes, that first 2 climbs. So the first half is basically flat. Then you've got 2 warm-up climbs before we get to the final climb. We've got the Coladiella climb, 6.5 kilometers, 8%. Attrition climb, the first one of the 2. Then the Cordal just before the Angliru, which is basically 6K at 8.5% roughly. And that descent of the Cordal runs straight into the Langliru. Langliru is 13.1 kilometers, 9.5%. But I'll let you talk about how difficult this climb is, because this is not just a 10 kilometers, 6% climb. This is really bloody steep.
6Ks at that gradient. Okay, there's like 2 watts of draft, but you're really on your own here. And you don't want to go too early either. I think Enric Mas in 2020, he thought he was going to go clear for the win.
Mm-hmm.
But he was very strong, but he went too early and Carthy nabbed it. So it's also, despite being a short stage, those 2 climbs before, both over 8%, both 15 minutes, not that easy. And it can be a pretty intense stage beforehand. Obviously, they're not going to burn 5,000 kilojoules like on Col de la Loze, but it can be quite difficult before. We saw also the emergence of, Monetero was where Stora attacked on the penultimate climb, and he was stomping. De La Cruz also stomping that day, chasing after him. I think should Jumbo chase the break?
Yeah, I think they should. It's a short stage to control, and on those 2 climbs, they can just ride tempo behind the breakaway they've already got under control, because there's going to be a long breakaway formation phase, most likely again like today. So I believe they should. It's even to the point that if you're Remco, and he said he wants to go for the stage, but he kind of said it in the way of, I'm gonna have 2 rest days, the rest day and today, and then I'll try and slip in moves in the coming days. And I'm like, I'm not sure the breakaway is the best way to win the stage for Remco.
I think winning from the GC group is going to be difficult.
Yeah, I agree, but I also believe that the breakaway won't win.
I think the breaks have got a good chance.
Really?
If it goes early, 66Ks are flat. 2 climbs like that, I also think it's better for him to just do an effort for the 3 hours, and not have the acceleration. So I think he should get in with a tug buddy like Cataneo again, and I think that's his best chance to win. Obviously, to test himself, it's a great pressure-free opportunity to test yourself on a mountaintop finish like this against the GC guys. Brunel was suggesting that in La Movida, and there's some merit to that. So I think you can also probably tell, like, ask Jumbo, like, are they going to chase in the morning? Because why do Jumbo need the stage, no? Why?
How much time do you need at the start of Angliru to win? 5 minutes?
No, not for Remco. If he's stomping...
Well, Remco, I agree, but the majority of riders on 6 kilometers at 13% average, maybe a bit more than 13%, you need at least 3-4 minutes for that.
A pretty good climber, 3 minutes minimum. And I'm talking like
Bardet?
yes, or sort of guy. So I don't know, Benji. I think that's a really difficult question. I would lean towards, if I was Remco, trying in the first 20 minutes of break formation, hoping something easily goes with a Cataneo and a Vavaka with you. If it doesn't, and Jumbo are being mean, I would very quickly step away from that and just sit in the GC group. Because as you said, it's... But then, do they have the riders to... I guess Geesink is riding really strong. Maybe he can pace those 8% climbs pretty fast at the moment.
Tratnik is the first one in my eyes, even.
Or
I think Geesink is currently doing better than Tratnik.
Yeah, on the climbs. For sure.
Calderon was done really early today, so maybe that's just kind of a thing where they used him up early, but also thought about tomorrow's Angliru stage already. Because I would expect Calderon to do a bit more than what he did today, if he's in good form.
Yeah, and he was good on Tourmalet as well. He was the last man on Tourmalet before Vingegaard attacked.
Yeah.
Maybe he was just supposed to rest today. I don't know. But yeah, Luke, our producer, has said two things. Walter said that after the stage today, they just heard at the bottom of the climb that Nathan van Hooijdonk is awake and he's pretty okay. This victory is for him, so that's fantastic news for Van Hooijdonk. And yeah, in particular, obviously. And then he also, Luke, said that Koos' birthday is tomorrow. So here's what I would like to happen tomorrow, Benji, which might not be...
Tactically the best at it? Or...
I think Vingegaard has to set the pace Koos wants on the steep section to all the way to the line.
Okay.
And protect Koos.
I find it interesting, as in...
How does that stop you winning the Vuelta? I don't think that stops you
I agree.
winning the Vuelta in any way.
The Danes won't like it, but I agree that playing defensive is one of the options. Another option is playing attacking again, because it's been working twice, Tourmalet and on Baez, to the point that it's likely going to work again tomorrow. If Vingegaard does the exact same thing, it's likely going to work again. But then you're giving Vingegaard a chance over Koos. And I don't think Koos fans will like what happened today in terms of Vingegaard being able to slip closer to Koos. I want GC Koos to win, but I think both options are perfectly fine strategic options. You can, if you're Jumbo, go with the attacking formation for Jonas, or you can play defensive with both Jonas and Koos because you're 2 minutes ahead of Ayuso at least now. With one of the two, you're more ahead. And when it comes to Primoz, what do you do there?
He has to follow. This is a danger stage for him for his third position.
Yeah.
I think Roglic has to focus on defending third tomorrow.
Because Roglic, on this climb the last time he was here, it was not his best Grand Tour, that one. He won that one on bonus seconds, basically, against Carapaz in 2020, if I recall. Explain the myth of Roglic.
I said it before, but it's just like, he's not attacking because he's making a choice not to. It's like, well, actually, if you can attack and have the legs to take 1 minute, normally riders do that. Like Pogacar or Vingegaard. Usually when riders don't attack it, or when they do attack, they don't get separation. There's a reason for it. I'm not saying he's in bad shape. And yes, he is probably better than in the Vuelta 2020. But today was the stage for him to win. Tomorrow, Angliru, based on Tourmalet, based on history, 45-minute climb. I think he should focus on being conservative and sitting on Ayuso and Mas.
And also because we're looking at this stage now, this is a rather short battle period in the stage, the last climb, Angliru. No GC ride's going to attack before that. That's relatively certain in my head. Yeah. But the next day is completely different, to the point where that's where the real questions will be asked when it comes to tactical plans. Because what if someone goes at a certain point in that race, which, like, stage 18 is a stage with climbs all over the route, and like it's kind of the rate stage where you've got jumping points for riders. And if Jumbo was behind in GC, that'd be a great moment to have your 3-leader strategy benefit over others. But I'm also in the opinion that they don't really need to do that anymore. So I don't know why. I would love to see the Koos and Vingegaard defensive action for GC Koos, because we all want GC Koos to win. But I would understand it as well if Vingegaard attacks and is simply the best in the race and therefore wins the Vuelta that way.
Yeah, I mean, Vingegaard can attack tomorrow and win by 2 minutes, of course.
Yeah.
Like, or 90 seconds or whatever. Like,
but it's boring.
Yeah, but fuck that. Like, yeah, of course he can do that. And also, you know, I don't think it's helping. Say Ayuso attacks.
Yeah.
Kuss is struggling. Vingegaard marks Ayuso. Tactically, that is the correct thing to do. That also means Vingegaard wins probably. Because Ayuso's not going to stop. Ayuso, if he has one Jumbo in his wheel or two Jumbo in his wheel,
he's happy.
He will keep going. And same with Mas. You will keep going because you might get on the podium. He will only stop, or Mas will only stop if there are 3 Jumbo in the wheel.
Yeah, because Ayuso, at this moment in the race, is not thinking about winning the race by dropping everybody. He's thinking about picking off a single Jumbo rider every time in the hopes that he can find his way on the podium first. And if he can drop one of the 3 Jumbo riders tomorrow, then he's going to be really happy at the end of the day.
Yep.
But the question then is, hypothetically, let's say Roglic has a bad day, Kuss has a bad day, Vingegaard has a bad day, and either one of the 3 drops just behind Ayuso in GC. You reckon Jumbo will try and use their 3-leader strategy on the day behind tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, to get the third rider back on the podium?
Yeah, I think they would.
I think so as well.
I think so. Because Vingegaard kind of doesn't care if the race is super closed down and conservative, and I can't imagine him being the one to fall out of the podium, and I would assume he would be going into red in that situation. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see the internecine warfare is kind of boiling a little bit maybe. Will it bubble over or boil over tomorrow? It's very, very difficult to manage, that's for sure, but I'm going to pick Sepp Kuss to win the stage, Benji. I'm not worried about him losing a couple of seconds on a punchy finish. I think Angler is good for him. And I think I'm going with Kuss to win the stage. More of a hard pick. And Vingegaard to mark Ayuso and co behind.
I find it interesting because, like, I'm imagining the scenario of Vingegaard and Kuss playing rather defensively. And then I'm wondering who's still going to be there at the finish line. And
well, that's what I mean. If Vingegaard sets his pace, right, for Kuss, he's not going to lose 2 minutes to Ayuso if he counterattacks him. There's no risk.
I'm sorry, but I'm not going to allow it. I believe that Enrique Mas will revive himself.
Another good pick.
Rise up and win the stage. It's unlikely, but...
You know, he gave a Spanish language interview where he said, stage wins don't matter. I need it for a rider like wins don't matter for a rider like myself. Being on the podium's better. And people were like, I don't know. We know the Angler is pretty good. And right now you're in 5th. So I hope he has a dig. I hope he has a dig.
Yeah.
He's going to be... He's pretty comfortably ahead of Soler now. There's no... Soler's on 26 seconds and he's going to drop tomorrow.
Let me get this right. No confidence in Remco winning on Angliru.
From which group?
Yeah, I don't actually know.
From the GC group? I don't see it.
I don't know it either. Would be funny though. Like, it would be a memory of like the Barguil days in Sunweb in that one Tour de France when he won stages from the GC group and won KOM. That's the kind of memory I'm thinking about. That's the kind of stuff that would be funny to see. But I reckon, I'm gonna switch it up. Not Mas. Ayuso is gonna win on Angliru. It's very unlikely.
I think
don't
it's more
believe
realistic
in it.
than Mas.
I don't believe it at all. I think Mas is more realistic than Ayuso. But
really?
Go for Ayuso anyway.
I mean, we'll see if. Don't you think Almeida and Soler and Finn should do a lead up for Ayuso tomorrow?
Yeah, but they're not going to do it. I believe a lot of things. Finn might. Finn's been actually a good domestic this entire race.
He moved Ayuso up on the climb today. No, initially he was moving him up.
I reckon it's just a mistake by the team car today. Because I don't see Fisher Black doing what he did out of selfishness.
But I think if you want to get on the podium, you got to set a pace, man.
Yeah, you do.
So, like, Roglic, Kuss, and Vingegaard won't just drop. Any other movement you see that we should be looking at, Benji? Will Landa overtake Soler? That's something to really watch. Go from 7th to 6th. Will Vlasov overtake Landa or Soler? He looked good today, but it's a longer climb tomorrow. Almeida, I don't know.
Vlasov got second on Angliru in 2020, remember? And I picked him for the stage in the preview, and I don't remember why I picked him, just because of that Angliru, I think.
Yeah, but
what if Vlasov wins on Angliru?
He could climb when he was on Astana.
Would you color your hair green if Vlasov wins on Angliru?
Nah, fuck no.
I tried.
I'll say I'm wrong and an idiot, but I'm not going to find green hair coloring in Andorra. So yeah, I don't see that. But that's what we're watching. Top 10 movement from 5th to 10th.
And 10th position, I also reckon Almeida saved there, and the space from 11th to 9th is 5 minutes. So I kind of feel like no one in the top 10 will lose their top 10 tomorrow.
Santi in the break, maybe.
I don't
He's
see
good
the
on the
winning,
ramps.
so.
If Santi wants to get in the top 10, I'd get in the breakaway.
Yeah,
I think that's what he should do with some
with Remco.
Yes, that's what he should do. All right, I think it's always an interesting stage to see on Angliru. The strongest will out. And will we see team meltdowns? UAE, Jumbo, question marks over them today. Will we see that boil over tomorrow? I can't wait to watch. Hope you enjoyed this recap, and we'll see maybe the eagle fly tomorrow. Until then, ciao.